we haven't really changed anything other than maybe the colours, you know, that feature wall, that sort of thing. We've gone darker with the timber, but at the same time, that's not far off the Mission brand. It was that kitchen with it. We have blinds down normally in summer because it gets quite warm in there without the blinds. Or it could have just been that that's where the driveway was and it was too hard to get permission to change the driveway. You know, there could be lots of reasons you can speculate as to why they did it. Maybe it just suited them better.
The small homes designs were so buildable and livable that if they can be preserved, and I think there are a lot still, the plans were all mostly for families, you know, 2 or 3 bedroom houses of the time. That was quite a big house. And they were functional houses. They worked.
I really love it. And the moon comes up out there, so if you're sitting here, quite often you'll get the moon framed in between that square at the end.
It's like a little stargazer.
Yeah, look, and when I was rebuilding it, one of the guys I work at one of the studios with asked if I was going to put laser light over the top of it so that it created a bit of a shelter. And I just thought, you're missing the point totally. And I think we just gradually, somehow, we ended up with more and more of it. Like the house is taking over. And now we love it.
What is interesting is the fact that we never realised, of course, until I think we were already on the block living in a tent. We were living in a tent for about 5 weeks. And then Mrs. Boyd turns up, our neighbour. Something like that.
She was watering the garden and decided
She's been in hospital.
But she was also quite taken aback by... She was such a beautiful lady.
Yeah.
She made an impression on me all my life. Mm-hmm. In those early days, I was 10 years old, and I looked at her and I did not have an inkling who she was. We did not know who the Boyd family were at all. So I think from nothing, you sort of get inspired and you don't know how your life is going to end. You really don't. And you don't want to know. But it's the journey that is between that time and the time that you can't do it anymore, I suppose. But the inspiration, I think, that our parents gave us or left, they certainly, again, at the time we didn't realise, but looking back, the inspiration that they had in order to build a house out of nothing, virtually, without expertise. We needed help and we got wonderful help from our neighbours and from people who were able to see what we were doing, and the inspiration from those people helped us through a lot.
Where I sit, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know much about what I wanted to do. But in the meantime, Mrs. Boyd had shown me how to do watercolours. So I became a bit of an artist, a bit of a sketcher, right? I could draw nuts and bolts, for instance. I wanted to draw nuts and bolts, like in perspective, right? And vases and things. So I became a sketcher. Now, that sort of, that kindles an interest in some sort of arty stuff, right? Never ever thinking that where it would lead, but I was told that I was a good model maker. I could make little model boats. So I got a job at General Motors in the experimental engineering as a model maker. But that led then to an industrial design course because I was in the design department and I wanted to be a car designer. I wanted to be a big shot car designer. But I realised that General Motors wasn't particularly good for that because there was a lot of planned obsolescence. The design wasn't about good design, it was about a design that would be superseded the next year, So I got disillusioned by that and decided I would become a self-employed industrial design person, and which I did, but not until I had some money. So I ran a hobby shop for 7 years or 6 years, model car racing stuff, and that gave us the opportunity to have our own house built. So I rang up Robin Boyd and said, Mr. Boyd, Carla and I would like to know how do we go about getting into a house, but we don't like the houses that we can see everywhere, right? And he said, oh, Bill, he said, at the moment, it's only a year and a half ago, I stopped doing all domestic architecture because there was no money in it, and so he was all going commercial. He said, but my son-in-law, he is doing some very nice houses with merchant builders. Have you heard of merchant builders?
Yeah.
And his name was Graham Gunn. So Carla and I went and had a look at the display home. We fell in love with it straight away, and we ordered a house. So we bought a terrace house, and we had a block of land in Croydon. So we were lucky enough to get a very nicely designed house, much the same as a small home service type thing, you see. And there's people that is just like us there, and they just don't get a chance to, you know, and the world is corrupt. It's been corrupted, but somewhere in between it all is this feeling where life is good. It can be good, you know. We just need to make it good for everybody, and just like a building, you know, you can say, oh well, just build a house, but some houses they leave you cold. It's pathetic. There's nothing there.
But it's the person that makes
and the people. Like I love modern architecture. I love the simplicity. I love getting rid of all the clutter and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, okay, so we had a house that was I thought it was terrific. That terrace house from Merchant Builders. But then this comes along, and it's about as honest as you can get too. You know, there's nothing. It makes you feel good. You know, and if a building doesn't do that. But anyway, the thing was that the house was being built while we were living in a tent, and eventually the tent could be packed up, and there's pictures of all that in there. And eventually we moved in to the front part. To
the kitchen and the living.
Yes,
the kitchen and the living area. It was a fireplace.
Yeah. And we put all the beds in there, didn't we?
We all slept in and so, but it was an adventure, and I think it took 4.5 years before the house was actually finished.
Yeah, totally finished.
But you see, I don't know how much they borrowed, but it might have been £500.
Might have
originally.
Well, I don't know, Bill.
But a lot of work was done even on the savings, on the rental savings, because if you're renting a house, I mean, look at it today, how much you pay for a rent, you know. If you could use that material into a house, you know, $400 or $500 a week, you could almost, as long as you can live somewhere, that's the way to do it.
The house itself was very practical. Because it was turned around the other way, we always used to come in through the kitchen, where we had a slow combustion. There's a booklet around and about all that. In fact, that DVD, you'll see the whole lot. Yes, and then and now, or then and say in 97.
Yeah.
And Bill's done a wonderful job on those. But it was cosy. We had the most beautiful fireplace. We had big windows in the front of the lounge room. It was a wonderfully happy home and cosy home, because the slow combustion stove would heat up the kitchen and the lounge room. The rest of the house, like most houses in those days, were cool because we didn't have heating anywhere else. But although the slow combustion also gave us hot water, and so it was really well designed in itself. And the most wonderful thing about that house, and that is worth noting, is the fact that we had a long passage, like they still do today, where we had the laundry around in one area. Then we had the toilet, a separate toilet. Then we had the bathroom. And then we had a separate shower. And our house where I live now, we've lived in our house for 53 years, and we have a similar style of house. And our home where I live now was only 12 and a half square when we moved in there in 65, 66. And we have a very similar plan, and it has been the most wonderful design. And because if someone needs to use the bathroom, you have to wait till they're finished before you can go into a toilet.
Yeah.
So to have a separate toilet is a great thing to have.
But basically, overall, there would have been a great similarity because it was a small home architectural piece, and so it would have been a modern house at the time. And not everybody liked that.
No, I think Robin Boyd certainly made a big change in getting something different to what it was in the earlier
Well, see,
days.
this was a modern house at the time. That was very modern.
Ours,
The thing to remember is that there's always been a class structure in Australia, and they say, oh, we're not that class driven, but nonetheless there is still an element where the well-to-do could impress with flamboyant, aren't I rich, look at me, right, and that's going the wrong direction for architecture, right? And that's what Robin Boyd wanted to sort of avoid.
he wanted to make a change.
He wanted to make so that if you had £1,000, you could build a nice little house, but if you were living in Camberwell, you had to spend £5,000 to be equal to the rest.
And he solved the problem straight away. He was one of a kind person, and a great loss, really, because he had so many years he could have been prolific, and his work, I think, would have become something very impressive in Australia.
Yes, I came in, could have been August or September of 1951. That was in Monash. We moved to the age in 1953, had to be 1953, because Robin actually resigned from small house in 54. No, for 53, the end of 1953. He was then this round. Yes, I had to leave because I turned 21 in December 1953. Well, the land was opening up at 9 o'clock and making sure that the stone settings were ready for people to look at, and that we had change in our box. I had to collect them actually. I think we didn't keep in the office. It was in somebody took it to somebody who was worked away in Mars to collect that. I had to deal with whoever was coming in and the phone calls. I didn't type. The secretary did all Robin did a lot of his writing. He was writing a book at the time as well. So Grace typed up a lot of his book.
But the small homes designs were so buildable and livable that if they can be preserved, and I think there are a lot still that I'm sure there was a lot that said whether they're going to agree. But I think that we recognise the small homes like that are completely different to what's being built now. The plans were all mostly for families, 2 or 3 bedroom houses of the time. That was quite a big house. And they were functional houses. They were architecture so widely. His interest was not just in housing, it was in painting and ceramics and in all sorts of things, because the family, that was, the Boyd family, they were that sort of people. So very interesting people came into the office. And working with somebody who was so competent, and he certainly didn't ever make me feel as though I was just the junior helper selling plans. He had very charming manners, but also I could talk to him if I had any concerns about working there. There were a couple, and he solved the problem straight away. He was a one of a kind person, and a great loss, really, because he had so many years. He could have been prolific, and his work, I think, would have become something very important in Australia. And working with somebody who was so competent, and he certainly didn't ever make me feel as though I was just a...
Say that again.
Wasn't the back of the house finished here, and then the garage was here?
Oh, the garage was way
So why
yeah.
was the fence post there?
Well, the old fence post, that fence post you can see, was some kind of division which happened to be near our boundary fence.
But you still had more land back here.
Yes, of course, but this post was in Mrs. Boyd's house, in her property.
Oh, right, okay.
And for whatever reason, it might have been to keep the horses out of a flower bed, for instance. You with me? But you can see at the top there.
I'm astonished that you're allowed to get up the top.
Oh, well, you do that anyway.
No.
That's right. Oh, well, there you go. See, this is Mace up there.
Yeah.
That's Mace, and that's Joe.
Oh, that's Joe. We were thinking it was you.
No, it was Joe. That's Joe, and that's Dad. And there's planks up there. You can see there's planks, and it's quite safe. It's just you don't want to trip over.
Quite safe.
Right.
Quite safe.
You don't want to trip over.
And it's not safe, Dad.
Hey?
It's not safe because you could trip over.
Well, nobody worried about things like that in those days. Right? It was everyone climbed trees and everything like that. It was normal. Like,
You had never built a house before.
only a holiday home in Holland.
Wow, good experience though, because it's
So it was a pretty big undertaking.
massive.
But the money they saved in rent went into the building materials.
That's right.
See? But there was a time when we added it all up, and they ended up spending £800, like that's what with the land and everything, which in today's terms, if you convert it from people's wages to today, it was equal to about $72,000.
Wow.
Working with somebody who was so confident.
That's amazing. Absolutely.
So,
He certainly didn't.
How old were you, Dad?
how old?
Were you 7?
I was 7, yeah, but I was 8 when I was with Mum taking the photo.
He had very.
See, there was a dog in that picture, and I brushed him out. I had to make the highest resolution picture with any distractions I could. Because see, that picture, that whole picture is no bigger than that screen size. So to blow it up would have been.
Where did Almanor get the tent from? Where did Almanor get the tent from?
Well, I believe it was in Burke Street, Melbourne, called Hudson's Stores. It was an army disposal store.
Because it's a massive tent.
Well, I think it's 5 metres by 5 metres.
Did you have any heating in there?
No. Oh, there was a primer stove.
There was quite a few options available, wasn't there? Like
There was.
You know, T13, 1917. Yours was T320.
Yes, that's right.
Dad, that one over here, that's very merchant builders.
It is. It's astonishing, isn't it? That's right.
That's where they gained their...
No, that's time-wise. Look at this date. 1969. That's when we built Merchant Builders House.
Right.
So basically, who was the architect? Graham Gunn? Because that really...
There are 2 different houses there. This is 3118 and this is B. That's Peter Wahlberg. That's this one here. And then there's that
So
one
who's
there.
this one?
This one
So this one here...
is that. Oh,
Yeah.
this
Who's
one,
the architect?
is Jack Clark.
Oh, Jack Clark, right. Right. See, that was very much also merchant builders, but they had solid brick inside, see? And that was the terrace type house that we had at Mount View.
Yep. I was just saying to Monica before that looks very similar to what...
That's right,
the side
that's
down
right.
the side of Great.
That's right, but even the interior here, we never had that sort of interior though, did we? Because it was brick inside. That's right.
We had the plaster floors.
That's right.
What I would have done, I really I love what they've done with the blue and this over the top. I think it's great. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is, mate. The girls did a terrific job, didn't they?
Yeah, unbelievable. It's
Hey?
just fantastic. So those bedrooms are still the same.
So this is move your arm and
sorry.
just get that.
Yep.
So this is the stay in there. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the terrace house. Yeah. What year was that?
65.
65.
Yep.
Yeah.
41 cubic metres of living area.
11 squares, I think it was.
Well, fancy that. Even our house
Is this in here? Yeah, isn't that
amazing?
funny? This is Mount Be Great House.
Isn't it
But
amazing?
yeah, this
Ours
is
mirrored a bit because our bathroom was next to.
Yeah. Yeah, so the bathroom was
Next to my bedroom.
yeah. So
It's completely reversed.
Yeah.
yeah, like a mirror image.
Yeah, I think
That
we
was your
did that on
bedroom,
purpose, didn't we?
lounge
Yeah.
room.
Because we didn't want the lounge room to be on the hot side of the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
I reckon we should have that.
It's a really done a good job, haven't they? The tent's out of proportion, of course,
Yeah.
but that doesn't matter.
And another thing I think is that it is well represented. Small homes.
Yeah.
That is all about Mr. Bird.
That's right.
She talks about
I-
working for him. I
Okay.
didn't see that the last
No, I
time.
didn't either. I tried to tape a bit of it, but I didn't get her name. But we need to move into this other space. And who's this bloke? Bloody hell. Him again. Jeez. But anyway.
used to get the look at that.
House and Garden, 1952.
We were a bit later when we got started. Yeah, this one's 1960.
Yeah. Help your architect help you.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what one of
That's the article.
That's what.
That was in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the underlying message always, wasn't
That's
it?
right.
In these, a lot of those
Be
editorial.
friendly to your builder.
Yeah. Otherwise, he gives you a hard time.